And I saw a tiger, and a tiger saw me. And I can't do it now. And the show has started. Hello.
It's because you can break. It's because you break every time.
guys.
Yeah, yeah. That's basically the whole show, mocking.
Hey, all you cool cats and kittens.
Yeah. Oh God, that's so cold. It feels so cold now when you say it. Like it sounds scary almost.
Well, it's because she's like fed. She's fed her ex-husband allegedly,
Yeah.
to the to the kittens, to the cool cats and the kittens.
Right, so there's a problem with this mic. So if you're looking on YouTube, I've got this bloody great mic sticking up in front of me, but I realise when I need one of those things that the preachers have, you know, it's in front of you like that. What do they call it?
Lectern?
Yeah, you know where they put the Bible on when they're reading.
Yeah.
Because I've got a mic that's in front of me, but now I can't see my notes. Not that I've got any notes. This is all off the top of my head.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking Tiger King, in case anyone hadn't guessed.
Yeah, Tiger King. Yeah.
So our
Got
Tiger
to chase that
is.
algorithm, yeah?
Yeah,
we
exactly.
thought we'd milk it a bit more. You know, we'd get a bit as much as we could out of this the lunacy. So it's about the Tiger King and Joe Shrivogel. Anybody got any? That's his original name, Shrivogel.
Yeah, I'm sticking with Joe Exotic.
Or Joe Maldonado Passage.
Yeah, Shrivogel. So, but I don't know. So what that is? Shrivogel. What's that? Is that Swedish? Shrivogel.
It's American,
GOL.
isn't it?
Not sure.
But the what's the bit Machidi? That sounds American. That bit. Because it was his name was the whole thing appeared as his name, but one was in brackets. I was thinking, was that a wedding name? Was he married? He's married 5 times, wasn't he? He's married.
Yeah, I mean, at one point he was married to 3 people at the same time.
Yes, and he was married. He did have a first marriage before that. I think before same-sex marriage was legal.
Oh, right.
So I'm not. So he has been married a few times, and I'm not sure how legal all those.
Well,
were.
in terms of his head, there was 5 marriage ceremonies.
Yes.
Yeah, because you can't be. You know, it doesn't matter about sexuality. You can't be married
the Travis
to 3
guy,
people.
He said they weren't married. He said it was just a ceremony. There was no actual
Yeah, it has to be. You can't be. You can't be a bigamy. You can't be 3.
Yeah. Even in Texas.
Some states you can, but I think you have to be a Mormon. You have to have a religious exemption.
Yeah.
Well, like all things with Joe Exotic, I think it was mostly show. That was the main thing. As long as it so he was married 5 times. Well, technically, or not technically, rather. So his first husband died of HIV. I think the second one went in. He got done for child molestation or something. Didn't he?
And murder. He's in prison.
Right.
He's in prison for first-degree murder.
That's
Yep.
Nice.
And then he went on to the other one.
Sexual contact with a 13-year-old. Yeah.
So, and Travis had. He says, "Did you?" I watched an interview with Travis. So this is the guy that got laughed at because of his all his tattoos and all that, which he says the documentary.
And the teeth, come on.
Yeah,
No. Travis was the one who accidentally killed himself.
Oh yeah, no, it's John Finlay. John Finlay.
Oh, hang on.
John Finlay was the guy with all the fucked up teeth.
Yeah, so he's now got his teeth replaced.
Yes. Is that the guy that had the tattoos all over the place?
Yeah.
Yeah, because he said they wanted me to take my top off the whole time. So he was a bit more goaded into being that type of person.
Yeah, he said he also did some interview because he's had his teeth fixed gradually. He said that he was even when they were filming it, that he had some teeth replaced, and he said they just didn't want to use it because they just wanted him to look. And he also said that he was misrepresented as a meth addict because he said they talked about what's it called, meth mouth, and then they would always cut back to him with his. Right. And he said that was actually just a condition he had.
Yeah,
genetic condition. Those teeth
called
a bit of both.
crystal meth addiction.
Yeah, I was going to say I don't know what the genetic condition is.
He complained because he was like, "Oh, they portrayed me as like a drugged out hillbilly," and like, no offense, but you look at him, mate, and
you look like a drugged up hillbilly.
You kind of you look like a drugged up hillbilly. You sound like a drugged up hillbilly, and you come across in your entire life, and everything you've done has been.
Yeah, he's sort of straight out of central casting, isn't he? Like if you got an extra, I've worked in an extras agencies, and you had people, not necessarily like him, but you would have like, right, we need however many, you want X many people with loads of tattoos who look mean, because whenever there's a thug film, whenever there's thug street gangs or whatever, we need those people, because particularly when you're looking at extras, you don't have time to go into tons of backstory. So that's why, although it might look like you're perpetuating stereotypes, you need to immediately go, right, we're going to show a far right rally, everyone's got to have a skinhead.
It's a visual shorthand.
Yeah, it's the quick thing. Yeah, so you look at him and you go, it's not maybe it's unfair, but you can't help looking at that. And they're talking about doing meth and all of this. Yeah,
they're firing off guns and driving around in pickup trucks with Confederate flags. And you're
I don't want to jump ahead, but you know the documentary filmmaker, the original guy, not Netflix, Rick Kerem.
Yes, he's a very interesting character, isn't
in
he?
an interview,
crack addict.
he said he was. He knew,
former crack addict. Come on.
Oh, sorry. You're right.
he knew that. What was the guy with the teeth? I've forgotten his name already.
Joe Finley. No, John Finley.
John. He said he wasn't gay. He said, and the Joe Exotic would be on the documentary guy's shoulder, crying, saying he won't have sex with me. They never had sex. He said, and he said to him, he said because he's not gay. He said he's crying. I'm married to him, and he won't have sex with me. So they didn't actually even have sex. So I mean,
without being too gross, did they have any kind of
I don't know.
Physically romantic relation?
He said he fantasized about people when he tried to make them like him. But he said they basically took. He said he would go to the train stations and look for sort of runaways, drug addicts, alcoholics, and pick them up and get them to work for free, and then show them around and lord them up and make them think that's how. It's sort of a trick, you know. It's a bit like a pimp. It's that sort of mentality. But he said the guy wasn't gay. He said he's crying on my shoulder saying he won't have sex with me. He won't have sex with me. I'm married to him. He said, but because he's not gay. So
there was, sorry.
They didn't have sex.
Yeah, there was but that's, there was a thing in big, because we were talking about celebrity culture last time.
Andrew, when you talk, you're crackling a little bit. Have you picking it up? Yeah.
Crackling.
Are you plugged in?
I mean, this is excellent listening for the viewers.
No, that's all part of podcasting.
It's live, baby. It's live TV.
I've got it plugged in, so I don't know what's going to be causing the
Give it a
crackling.
waggle or something. I don't know. Like it just sounds.
Oh, we're about to
Here we go. This is Charles doing his Joe Exotic
technical.
Give it a waggle.
But if it's all plugged in, there's nothing you do.
Yeah.
If it's crackling, then it is what it is. It's the early days podcasting, so stop moaning. It's we're going to do our thing on Joe Exotic. So. Just quickly, do you know where the word zoo came from?
No.
It's the Greek word for animal is zoon with a Z-N. Okay. And logical comes from the word logica, the knowledge of, study of. So zoological is animal knowledge. There you can have that. Oh. That just gets us into the educational part of the iTunes. So there you go.
That's done.
You've had
Education's finished.
We've had the hilarity.
Back to the meth smoking, right.
Yeah. So just to get to his music video, so he doesn't sing them. It was sung by a band called Quinton Johnson Band, and what they do is, and they weren't written by him either. They sing it, then he sings it, and then the editing they bring them both together. So you might hear the twang of his voice loosely in between little bits, but that's how they do it.
It's a bit like what's the program they use?
That's
sort of
Kerem?
There's a audio program that sort of. It makes everyone sound the same thing. Yeah, auto-tune. Yeah, that's something. Yeah.
So he said, they both sing it, and then they bring the two together, and then sort of weed it in and out, depending on what bit you want to hear. But but it's basically them singing the Quinton Johnson Band. So John Trevogel, 5 husbands. Do you know? I didn't realize he was a police chief. You know, he was a police chief in a town called Estival.
This is Joe, is it?
Yeah, Joe Exotic, who used to be a policeman, police chief. But the area only had 700 people and they barely had running water. It was one of those sort of towns.
Nice.
And he left because he's all fucked up, but you never know why. Because he's always on a crutch sort of thing. But what happened is he was involved.
Yeah, because he had quite a bad limp, doesn't he? Yeah.
He was involved in a drug investigation. So he was in the police when he was in his 20s. And apparently they run him off the road and he hit a bridge. And it basically broke done his back in, his shoulders, his face. He broke everything. And then he left the police force because he was just sick of that and went to start a pet shop with his brother, who actually also died. Gerald died in a car crash.
Yeah, because they referenced that in the show, but I couldn't remember if I hadn't heard about him being a policeman.
For people that don't know, if you go to watch the Louis Theroux documentaries, he did one with Joe in it.
Well, he appears in it, yeah. There's a bit where
basically everybody, the couple of people that are in the documentary are actually in the Louis Theroux one, a couple of the people that are in it. But you find out more about him, like how his brother died, and they have a memorial for him in the actual zoo, which is why he was quite protective over the zoo, because his brother was... I don't think he's buried there. I think it was just a memorial thing.
Yeah.
But he used to be a police officer, and he was like, that thing happened, and because he was involved with a drug investigation, they run him off the road. Some people say it might have been a suicide attempt that he pretended was an attempt on his life.
Nothing would surprise me about this guy.
Can't.
That's the thing, is I've heard so many weird stories, and like everyone's come out with their own angle and their own little weird thing, and it's just like nothing would surprise me.
Looking at the interviews online are actually more interesting than the documentary, because they all say I realised he's quite like Trump, because it's what it is it's more bullshit than you think. Like, even though there's a lot of bullshit in it, like there was one. I think it was the documentary guy. What was his name? Oh, God.
What, the man who made the documentary?
Rick Kirkman, the original documentary filmmaker.
Rick Kirkham?
Yeah. So the guy that was filming everything,
let me have a look.
He said, Rick
Kirkham, yeah.
Yeah. He said Joe was petrified of the tigers and never went into the enclosures with them. He said the times you do see him go in, he said he fucking did not want to be in there. And he said the actual trainer was stood behind the camera with 2 guns, because he was so petrified of being inside with the tigers.
And all the tigers, he said they said that they were drugged up, or they were old tigers.
So he said he was not interested in them, and he talks about like so obviously in the doc, he was making a documentary for a year. He was there, did the stupid thing of having an argument with Joe, and basically, I mean, I think it was a quote that actually came out of his mouth. He said to Joe, he said, "I own you." And he said, and like meaning the footage, I own you. They had a big argument about the footage. He said, I own you. And if everyone sees what you've done, you're going to go to jail. And then 2 days later, or the fucking whole place burnt to the ground.
Mysterious fire with the alligator. It was in the alligators, wasn't it?
With the Michael Jackson alligators, let's not forget.
Yeah, from Neverland.
So he
there's so many weird details. Like, the more you dig, like, because there's a lot of weird shit in there, right?
So many tangents.
But then the more research you do, like, it gets even weirder, basically.
But yeah, he said basically, I said, I own you, and you're going to go to jail when they see what you've seen. He said, because what happened is, a lot of footage showed him killing animals, like, and not giving a shit. He said there was one story. Did you hear the one about the horse?
Yeah.
Where the woman turned up with a horse that was getting old, and she said, "I can't look after this thing anymore. And can you look after it?" And he said Joe was crying with her, saying, "Don't worry, I'll look after it." He said, "Leave the carriage with the horse in it. You go off, and we'll drop it off tomorrow." He then said to Rick, the documentary filmmaker, this is him telling it. He said, "Go and get your gun, go and get your camera, and watch this." And he said he walked up to the horse and put a bullet in its head and started laughing. Yeah. After him telling he was going to look after it, he said he then cut it up and fed it to the tigers.
I found that really odd, because that was in the follow-up episode, wasn't it? The special with a few of the guys. And it was interesting
with Joel McHale,
Yeah, but it was really weird, because you were like, I was thinking, well, what happens if that woman comes back and says, "Can I see the horse?"
That's exactly what I was thinking, Are
they just going to get like another horse and hope she doesn't know?
The fact that he said, "Get your camera and film this," like,
he's obviously he's not a normal person, is he?
But he must know that.
Well, you've seen him. You've seen him. You know he's not fucking.
You've heard him.
Come on.
Yeah.
But I didn't actually. Funny enough, I didn't know. If people haven't seen it, there's an extra special now, isn't there? There's an added episode on Netflix
episode
that's right at the
8,
end. I hadn't seen it. But yeah, so him being petrified of the fucking animals, not wanting to be around them, and then the stories about that, I thought, oh no, he is that Trump thing. The zoo is just an avenue for him to show off. He doesn't really give a shit about the animals. It's all about showing off. It's about getting kids in that are idiots that will lord him up and make him feel good about himself. The whole thing is basically a big con. He doesn't care about them fucking animals.
Yes, he certainly. It seemed he chased fame and celebrity, as we were talking last week.
And it just happened to be animals were the thing.
Yeah,
that makes you feel big.
And he seemed to be a businessman in the scummy mold, in that he was quite willing to exploit vulnerable people, and all the people who worked for him, he was kind of fucking over. And they were all vulnerable and in their own way, you know what I mean?
But all purely to make him feel better. That's all what it was.
Yeah, but I mean, we're talking. This is most businessmen, is it not?
But I think because of the bullshit of, like, you think, well, he must love animals. Oh, he's killing them like willy nilly. He doesn't give a fuck. So it is that Trump level of like, oh, it's complete bullshit. He's not a businessman. He's just a fucking con man. But he reached that level. I think he does reach that level.
Which is why the step into politics. You're like.
Yeah. You know, I've forgotten about that. That's perfect.
Doesn't seem so far-fetched, because you're like, he's kind of weird, creepy and kind of evil enough to go into politics. Yeah,
how did he get on? I can't remember now. Did he just get did he get like no votes or something? Or
he did get votes, but he got beaten by another guy, didn't he?
Yeah.
The presidential campaign was a write-in, i.e., he was an unaffiliated. He was an independent candidate, and I think he got less than 1,000 votes nationwide.
But he was using money from the zoo, wasn't he, to do the?
Yeah. He was sort of the dodgy-ish finances and using money from the zoo to finance that. With the vote run for governor, he ran for the Libertarian Party candidate. And he finished. So he didn't even run as governor. He ran for the third or fourth biggest party there.
So it was barely something.
He finished third out of three candidates.
Bless
him.
Even with all those pink shirts.
Yeah, but if he comes out now, he'd probably win it.
He was a couple of years behind the curve. That's the thing. Genuinely now.
Was it at the end of the documentary, or was it with the interviews I watched, where he said the guy was saying, he realised at the end, you can just shoot the animals and bury them rather than get them homed somewhere. Was that at the end of the Netflix? He said there's a big bag. He said he used to just shoot them in the head and just put them in the ground when they were too big to be worth anything.
I can't remember that.
I'm sure it was right at the end.
But there was lots of accusations and counter, wasn't there? Because Doc Antle, they accused him of, they said, he's got a gas chamber, he's just killing them all. But there was an inspection, I think, after the documentary was completed, and I think actually there's been a follow-up because of the allegations, and they haven't found anything.
Yeah. So there's a lot of there have been investigations, but this is one of the things I want to say is that there's a lot of it's a very good watch and it's a very entertaining show, but it's a narrative edited and created out of a lot of hearsay and conjecture, basically. And don't get me wrong, it's really entertaining, it's fascinating, but when I was watching it, I sort of switched off my, because we've all made films, we've all been involved in filmmaking, so we know this. We know that it's all, it's all fiction, even the stuff that's purported to be fact. And I sort of had to switch off my sort of, my critical brain and just enjoy it for what it was. And it's very enjoyable.
Entertainment,
yeah. However, it does stitch some people up and it does gloss over a lot of issues. I mean, the animal abuse. This is a show predominantly about people who abuse animals, and that is glossed over completely. And the focus is instead of, hey, look at these wacky, eccentric characters.
Well, sorry, go on.
I was going to say, which is odd because the people who made Tiger King, so not Rick Kirkham, but it was Eric Goode, is a conservationist. So he's made lots of nature documentary. This is his first sort of, I suppose, constructed document. He's made sort of nature films in the past. He's used to own nightclubs, used to own real estate. That's sort of how he made his money. But he's worked in conservation a lot as well. So that's probably what their in was, because Carole was told that basically Carole and Jeff have said that they were lied to. I'm not sure if Doc Antle has said the same, but Carole said that she was basically told, it's a documentary exposing the exploitation of animals. Obviously, you run the sanctuary, you know about all these other people who are running their dodgy zoos. I think Jeff says something similar, that he was told it was about, again, some of these different zoos, and he said it, and it ended up being about, what happened with Joe and everything. Although Jeff has kind of still leaned into the limelight and is sort of he was on the Netflix. I do not trust a word that guy says. Oh no, of course not. Yeah. But he was on the Netflix follow-up, but Carole obviously was not.
Well, that Rick Kirkman, he says in one of his interviews, he said he felt really bad that he said, I basically sold my journalistic integrity because I realised a few months in, I'm just watching a lot of animal abuse here. I'm selling my soul. He claims, I didn't want to do this, but I got brought in to make his poxy show for him, but with the understanding that I would have the rights to make a film about him. And as he said, I was going to retire on it. That's why I was doing it.
Well, because he met him and he just thought, wow, this guy. I could get a film or a show out of this.
But he said it was just a lot of abuse. He just saw a lot of animal abuse, and he sort of went along with it just for the overall show.
He said he should have reported. He said, really, I should have reported this.
He did also interview George W. Bush high on crack cocaine one time. So
did he?
Yeah.
Did you watch the documentary?
No.
Did you watch that documentary he made?
What what was it called?
What's it called?
But it was a whole. So basically, he's a bit of an opportunist, really. I think it has to be said. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, compared with everyone else in this, he's probably one of the more sane people. But he was basically a crack addict. Again, that's not like a crime in and of itself. People
recovering.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. But okay, but then he's sort of like, right, I'm going to make so he just used to go around on crack. He used to go days without sleep. He used to turn up to work high. But then he's trying to parlay that into a series about like, hey, this is me trying to get sober and everything.
And you, whenever you speak, you are crackling. Kerem?
Yeah. Is this? Are we back to the whole when my Mac was broken and you guys?
No, so you're doing.
Try turning on. There's nothing I can do, guys. Right. So either should we call it
because you will get angry again if we just keep
like
last
ourselves. Week, literally, it was like turn it on. It's literally broken. It's literally not turning on. Have you tried turning it on though?
And all doing it in sync.
Yeah, it's not on. So I don't know.
What about? We can only say this once. Can you pull the mic out and put it back in, or will Kerem just?
Or is that going to fuck up the audio recording?
Oh.
Yeah, it will fuck up the audio.
Why would it be crackling when he's speaking? No idea. Because it only doesn't happen when he's not talking. Oh, it's only when he's talking. What are you on? Are you on a mic? Oh, you got that
I'm
mic.
on the same one I've had all the time.
Oh, that's strange. Kerem, can we carry on? Is it fine? Yeah. Okay, right, forget about it.
But yeah, the documentary was called TV Junkie. And it was basically him in his kind of house filming himself smoking crack.
Hold on. So I don't know. So what is this?
That's
George
Rick
Bush.
Kirkman's documentary.
About what?
About himself and his...
himself? I thought it was George Bush. Did you say George Bush? Something?
He did interview George Bush.
Oh, right. I thought it was George Bush smoking crack. I thought, is this a Vialucci exclusive?
He was... he said he
smoked crack, didn't he?
Yeah, He said he was high and it was about drug abuse. It was a thing about drug policy.
And he filmed himself?
Yeah.
Oh.
But the documentary is okay. It's relatively interesting. It's fairly candid. Look into the mentality of addiction stuff. It's not the best thing I've ever seen, but it was interesting. So
so just to go through, so he was a police officer of this small little town. There was something in the town. He said you couldn't arrest people for being drunk, like driving, because the roads were so bad that cars were constantly swerving all the time. So he said you wouldn't be able to tell. But yeah, when he had that apparent assassination attempt on his life. He went and opened a pet store with his brother, which got broken into, and they nicked all the animals. Then his brother died, and then with the money left from his brother, the parents and Joe Exotic put the money together to open the zoo, which is it in Texas? I keep thinking it's in Texas.
Oklahoma, wasn't it?
Oklahoma, yeah.
Sorry, the parents helped.
Because for some reason they got some money from the brother dying. I don't know how. I think they got like I think he said the parents got $140,000 and he got $70,000. So they just put the money together and opened up the zoo, which is actually a memorial zoo. They call it the something Memorial Zoo, Gerald Memorial Zoo.
It was the Gerald Wayne.
That's it, yeah. So that was his brother. Yeah. So that's how it started, with just one cage. So, as I said, I do think he's a bit of a con man. So what he did is he pulled, like Trump,
you heard it here first, folks.
He pulled everybody in around. He pulled the weakest members of society in to sort of prop up his delusion, really. And his delusion was, I love these animals, which is he didn't. From when you get the people that are living there, they go, well, he didn't really. He just got people in that were drug addicts and drunks and things like that to prop up his delusion. So again, this is a Trump thing.
But having said that, though, I think a lot of the employees seemed okay. Yeah. Like a lot of the people under him or whatever, the people worked in the park, they seemed more sinned against than sinned. You know
they looked like people that did need help, and they found something that helped them. It's just just putting up with him. Sort of thing.
And they all said themselves. They said, well, we were just there for the animals, and we were scared that if we weren't there, because they all said to a man or a woman, they did care about the animals, and they said if we weren't there, we didn't know what would happen to them.
Well,
so they felt compelled to sort of carry on.
The interview with Kelsey Safari,
Saf,
the aunt Saf. Now, I'm not going to be rude. I'm not being rude. I just don't know.
There we go.
Was that a bloke or a girl?
They identify as a man. Yeah.
Right, hang on. So you're not clearing
just say
it up.
He.
Right, so it's a woman that's transitioned into a man. Anyway, how do you know that? Did they talk about it?
Because they said, because they said.
So she used to be. Fuck's sake! Can't talk like a normal human being anymore, can you?
Just use they. It's easier.
I'm going to say, what was he or she born as?
I think they were born as a lady, but they said that in the interviews they said that when from the time that they could talk, they always identified as a man.
But let's not clear it up. We all know what we're trying to say, so clear it up for me. She is now a woman who used to be a man.
No.
She used to be a man.
I think she's genetically born a lady, but identifies as a man.
Okay, so now Kelsey, the fella.
Yeah, and as a former army soldier, did tours in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Oh. So. Well, even in the interview, he,
but Saf says she doesn't. He or she doesn't mind.
Yeah, I mean,
because
I couldn't believe how level-headed she was. Oh, fucking what?
It doesn't. They said they were cool. They said that they got misgendered and they were fun.
Right. So, can I just clear up? So now is she to be referred as a she or he?
As a he. Just say he.
Right. He.
And
Sal,
forget everything else.
Him, Sal, the bloke, Sam, the fella,
or Saf. Just call it Saf.
So the fella Saf, who got the arm ripped off. Talk about a more balanced person. It was so nonchalant about what happened. He said that it was 7 days after the incident, 5 days after the amputee, I was back at the zoo. He said it was a golden rule. You don't put your arm through. I was told not to do it. There was a zoo rule not to do it, but I did it. So it's nobody's fault. There's Tiger's fault. It's not even Joe Exotic's fault. We weren't supposed to do it, but I did it. So I just thought, Jesus Christ, we're talking about balance.
He said he was worried that they were going to put the tiger down as a result. The tiger was, I think they took it out of circulation, as it were. So it was just put in which makes you worry. You think, is that what Joe told? Is that what Joe told Sam?
Oh, we went to a farm upstate. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. As he's shoveling it out to be fed to the other tigers.
As he's dragging a big tiger-shaped bag into the van. Yeah.
Look. Let's just get on with this. Let's start taking this seriously. And let's just get to old Carole. Oh, old Carole. How you doing, Carole Baskin? She must be sweating bullets.
She's not doing good. She is, obviously they're in lockdown as we all are, but they're getting daily death threats, hourly death threats. I think they've had to disconnect their phone, they've said now, her and her husband.
Well, so do you want to just explain the brief story of what happened, roughly? So the two of them she calls hers a sanctuary, but it's not actually a sanctuary. It's a bit of a con because a sanctuary means it's closed to the public, and but hers was fully open to the public, and she made money. So the word sanctuary that she used was actually bollocks. And it turns out that all the things she was slagging Joe off for, that was how she started. She used to breed young pups for tigers and things and sell them, and she's apologised for it now. But I thought, well, what a bloody hypocrite.
Oh, 100%. You can't tell the difference between the two.
Because I looked up the sanctuary and he said, no, a sanctuary is somewhere it's not open to the public. It's and they go, oh, so she's full of shit as well.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, my interpretation of an animal sanctuary is you don't have people coming to.
And pulling the animals around. It's supposed to be like a breeding program or whatever. Yeah.
So she was married to Don Lewis. Was it Dan or Don? I wrote an O, but I can't say
Don. I'm sure it was Don.
So Don Lewis, rest in peace. Poor man.
Unless he's actually secretly Jeff.
Yeah, so
that's the conspiracy theory, isn't it?
That's galaxy brain conspiracy theory. That it's actually Jeff Lowe. They faked his death, and then he came back as Jeff Lowe to scam Joe out the park.
Oh,
fucking
God.
Genius shit, man.
That's lovely. So basically, her husband and her weren't getting on. He took a restraining order out on her. 2 months. So between that time and between the time he died and them not getting on, an amendment was made to his will, which said, if I go missing, Carole Baskin gets the money. Like that
signed
was
an entirely different signature.
Yeah, and that's the lawyer said. He said, in all my years of service, I've never heard of anybody or know anybody that's heard of anybody ever putting that clause into their own will. He took a restraining order out on her, and 2 months later. Was it 2 months or 2 weeks?
It's like, if I get run over by a truck, don't investigate, don't do an autopsy, just accept it as fact and move on.
So he finished. Her brother was in the police force as well.
Cousin
was a sheriff or something in the sheriff's department.
When somebody talks about a dead husband and she sort of everything's a sort of a wisecrack about it, and all the people are so silly, and she's constantly smiling while she's doing all these things and looking
it's
off
all
into
the things like, if I really wish they would find a body, because then I would be free.
When people say if you were going to murder somebody, then why wouldn't you do this, this, and this? And you go, oh, what? What did you say?
Yeah.
So the whole time, even when the husband's talking about it, like he's stood next to her. And he's talking, and she's just sort of looking off into the distance. And you go, what is going on in your head as you're staring off into the distance?
Trying to remember how much his life insurance policy is.
So,
and why is she dressed like she's about to go into Midsummer as well? I mean,
she's got that look to her. Yeah.
She's always wearing the flowers and stuff and the hippie shit. She looks like she's about to sort of go and bury, go and burn someone in a bear costume.
Yeah, she had that gloss over the eyes, that smile, that fake look at me, I'm smiling. And
she definitely breastfeeds him as well. 100% she breastfeeds her this new husband.
Oh, so they did an interview with the Hillsborough County Sheriff, Chad Cronister.
What? Sorry.
They did. I saw an interview with the current sheriff of Hillsborough County, Chad Cronister. Okay,
yeah.
And he said, right, so the guy was definitely murdered. So this is the police officer now, and he said, they did ask Carole to come in to do an interview, but she declined a polygraph test, but she declined.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, that was because she was. Her version of that is that, and how we tweeted out her is that she was originally going to go in and do the polygraph test, but then a lawyer said. She hired then, I think it was a criminal lawyer, because up to that point she only ever had a real estate lawyer. So when she hired a criminal lawyer, this was after she'd gone in, agreed to initially to do a polygraph test.
Is this initially after the disappearance then?
Yeah, they just said, because the police were like, oh, just to eliminate you from the line of inquiry, etc. And then the criminal lawyer, this is according to Carole, said, don't do that because polygraphs only work on having an emotional response. And she was like, oh my, and I thought, well...
they're not entirely reliable, and they're not even admissible in court, really.
They're only used to do, I think, really just as a stepping stone to keep investigating that sort of thing.
And as a kind of, because if you turn one down, it's kind of, it doesn't prove anything to take one, but if you turn one down, it's kind of, ooh.
Well, it's like pleading the fifth, isn't it? Like with witch hunts, if you plead the fifth, then you're basically saying yes, but I don't want to admit it.
What is the meaning of the plead the fifth? You don't want to incriminate yourself. Well, isn't that
you have a right not to incriminate yourself under the Constitution.
But I don't know what that means. What does that mean?
Because you have a right to not answer a question, but that's
the right to remain silent.
Yes,
it's basically that.
But you remaining silent should not be taken as admission of guilt.
Oh, so it's just that, in other words, basically.
You are legally allowed to not answer the question, but then that doesn't necessarily, that shouldn't legally imply that you are guilty by not answering the question.
But it's just gone now. It does mean you're not answering because basically,
because naturally, if you said, "Did you murder your husband?" I plead the Fifth Amendment. So you go. Well, at least lie and say no.
We all watched the O.J. Simpson trials. We all know what that.
It reminded me a little bit of Piers Morgan, who's faced a lot of accusations over phone hacking, and Hugh Grant said yet another thing. This was a little while back. Said, "Oh, but you were phone hacking this person, that person." He said, "Well, I was never found guilty. I've never even been faced trial over anything like that. Whereas you got caught for hiring a prostitute." And I thought. Which is true. But I thought, wouldn't an innocent person go, no, that's not true. I never hacked anyone's phone, rather than they didn't catch me.
Yeah. Well, you cheated on your wife, so there.
Yeah.
You're just like, all right.
So Carole Baskin, that'll be to be continued sort of stuff, but she's got to be sort of sweating a little bit with like the ring closing around her. The police officer did say he was having a lot of calls in every day, and he did ask for people to call in. He said because it might be an insignificant information for you, but if you have anything, basically call up. And it's a cold case at the moment, but we will look into it.
Yeah, but you're just going to have so many cranks going like, oh, you look at her hair, it proves it.
Yeah, well, he did say most of the calls to me would just go and get her sort of thing. He said, well, that's not helping. Have you got any proof for it? He said,
this is an anonymous caller. She totally did it. Go get her, fella.
Yeah, that fucking bitch.
Yeah. I got all the fucking evidence right here, fella.
I know it's... did we say it was Texas?
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma, Texas. That is, isn't it? Oklahoma.
Oh, she was in. Where's she? She's in Florida.
They're in Florida. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But when he's like doing his show and he's literally shooting a gun off an effigy of her, you go, Jesus Christ, mate! Like that's a bit. Or he's saying we want to put her head in a fucking bowl or whatever he was saying. You think, how are you, like, he's shooting a gun at a mannequin saying that's you. And you go, gee, what the fuck?
And joking about another Waco. Joking about, if the federal officers come, I'm going to murder them all, murder all my tigers, kill myself, and then kill more federal officers. And you're like,
God.
We've all had mornings like that, though, to be fair.
We've all made YouTube videos that.
We've all sent tweets out like that.
You know, like, your internet's running slow and you're like, right, that's it, I'm killing all the tigers.
The going back to the Rick Kirk, so yeah, that's Carole Baskin, presumed innocent. That's legally presumed innocent. But the Rick Kirkman guy, it made me laugh when in his interview he said, when I left, he said, I had to have 6 months of counselling after to get me through everything that I'd seen. I was thinking, how much of that is that the fact you lost all the fucking footage? But he was saying, no, it's like everything that he saw there. He felt sort of terrible. He said, in a funny way, losing all the footage made him feel better about himself, because he said it was like karma coming round on himself. It actually helped him mentally to know that he was going to profit from all this stuff, but actually profited from none of it.
Yeah, a bit like when Jesus gave back the 30 pieces of silver and he thought, now I feel all right.
Yeah, 6 months of therapy. If your documentary film crew's got to have 6 months of therapy after they've lived with you for a year.
Well, that's the thing. And he obviously does have issues with things. So he has addiction issues. So maybe that was just his way of not relapsing or dealing with stress or this kind of, emotional issues without self-medicating, which is kind of what he seemed to be doing.
The thing reminded me is the stupidity of a filmmaker. He's basically like, he was talks about, look, I'm a proper professional filmmaker, but he sort of came down to do this thing for him to help him out. But who fucking only makes 2 copies of filming and they're both kept in the same fucking room? Like you said, one was in the safe, but the safe melted. So you only got 2 copies of a year's worth of filming and you keep them both in the same bloody room. Even we've made 3 copies.
I know. I've got one of the copies of the pilot.
Charles, did you get a copy?
The raw footage.
Yeah.
No, I've got the raw footage, I think.
Charles, did I give you a copy?
I've got a few copies knocking around here.
Hey?
Of things.
He's selling them out of his car boot.
Oh, good on him.
Charlie got to have his taster, man. Yeah. Like, I've got to.
You got to wet your beak, as the mafia say. Let me wet my beak. So we've got 3 copies. All the heads of the 3 Hydras. You've got one, Andrew's got one, and I should have one. Yeah. Any other copies are purely illegal. Does it have like a thing on the bottom of the screen that says this is not to be sold? Going across.
This is a
Doc
Antle
says Doc Antle says that the only good thing I think he said in an interview was, because he didn't appear in the special. Which I'm sure they must have asked him. I'm sure they Carole. They would have asked Carole, knowing she would say no. But they asked Doc, and in an interview with the press, he said that the only good thing to come out of Tiger King is that it has reopened. He said, I think he said it exposed Carole. Because he said everyone in the big cat, years before. I don't know, when did her husband disappear? Quite some time ago.
1997, I think.
Oh, blimey, yeah.
So yes, 97, yeah.
Yeah. So he said that everyone in this kind of small world of the big cat parks knew this open secret.
So we've got all the main characters. The Jeff Lowe character, they just seemed a bit weird. So it was basically a guy, from what I can tell, he was in America. He was looking to invest in a big zoo or open it because he had animals of himself. Joe heard about him and then flew over, and they spent a couple of days together and convinced him to sort of pay all his bills off and take ownership of the zoo. But I couldn't tell, was he rich? I mean, he turns up in a Ferrari. He says he's got this big house, which was actually turned out he was renting them. So I couldn't tell if he was a rich guy or was he a con man as well?
He has, okay. Because realistically, when they introduced him in the show, they said, oh, there's this guy and he's an investor and he wants to invest loads of money and he's really rich. And I thought, what serious businessman would go anywhere near this guy like Joe? Realistically, why would you invest money with him? Why would you get into business with him? Why would you go anywhere fucking near him if you were a serious guy, if you're a rich guy, if you're a proper business person? And then they show Jeff Lowe walking up, I mean, the guy's in his mid-50s and he's a white guy in his mid-50s and he's dressing like a black guy in his 20s. You know what I mean? And you go, oh, okay, yeah, there's something off with this guy. He does have a string of convictions as well.
Oh, did he?
Yes.
What was it for? Is it financial?
2007, he was sued by Prince for selling clothes with Prince's trademark on.
Oh, so he's a con man, right? Okay, there we go.
Well, allegedly, maybe.
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
But Prince sued everyone.
Oh, okay.
I think we've all had.
But we've
all had a letter, a cease and desist from Prince at some point.
Bless him, yeah.
Just for breathing.
But he said that he was working on the staff and he was employed by Prince's staff. This is in court. And Prince's staff was like, no, we've never heard of you. You're just printing shit with our logo on. So they got the cease and desist to stop it. 2008, he pled guilty to federal mail fraud for posing as an employee of the Citizens Opposed to Domestic Abuse charity.
Oh, God, what?
Obviously a domestic abuse charity. So he scammed them for $1 million of merchandise that he later resold.
So
he scammed a battered woman's charity / shelter for $1 million.
Oh, he got the money from the charity?
Yes.
To do what, though? What was he supposed to do?
It was equipment and it was a bit vague.
Oh, he's nice.
Yes. 2015, he was found not guilty of a violation of animal care laws.
Oh, here we go. Yeah,
he was again later arrested in 2017 for failing to appear in court on another charge involving animal abuse.
Oh, so he is a sort of child. He's just plodding around trying to find a way in to con somebody.
Yeah, he seems a bit of a grifter.
Oh, yeah.
Allegedly.
And there's me. I'm thinking he's a nice guy from when he was looking for a nanny and he wanted sort of the best looking pictures to be sent in. Before he decided
when he was trying to bang his nanny,
he wanted to get a nanny. So let's send me in your modelling pictures. That's always a good start for a nanny, because he's in an open relationship, isn't he? Yeah. Him and his missus were in it.
Yeah, when the ad for the nanny just says "send nudes."
Yeah. Topless only. Yeah. But she didn't speak in the thing, did she? She didn't speak at all. I don't remember seeing her. Just photographs of her.
I'm not sure if she did speak. She did in the special.
She did?
The release and special. They interviewed both of them together in the special.
Yeah, but she's not the nanny, is she? That's his missus.
No, he's married. And they mention a nanny and he was just a bit like, ooh. And she's like, no, you.
Yeah.
But sleeping with that 19-year-old girl behind my back.
Even in the show, when he's saying, look, no, I'm getting why you not want an attractive nanny? And you go, oh, he doesn't give a fuck. He's like, the question is the problem. You don't understand. It's not my answer. So yeah, old Jeff Lowe is in his Harley Davidson leather jackets and bandanas.
It was weird. And he's now selling clothes on eBay that's supposed to have been owned by Joe. God. For like 900 quid for a t-shirt.
That's a real classy businessman.
Yeah. So it's kind of a bit small time. You know what I mean? He's like selling stuff on eBay for like 500 quid and stuff.
Yeah, but I'm sure all of his, this Ferrari, all of that, that's all going to be a house of cards. That's all going to be credit carded up to the bar. He'll be one of these people that, one mispayment, one heavy bill,
and that's the end of it.
One failed insurance scam.
The missus is gone, the girlfriend's gone.
And everything's gone, and then he'll be on to the next, he'll file for bankruptcy and
start up somewhere else, conning somebody else.
The one
it sort of hinted at the end, isn't it? Because they introduced that guy, Tim Stark.
Who's that?
Who was one of the guys who took over the zoo?
Oh yeah.
Joe. And he was bitching about Jeff was supposed to put in money and work, and he's just not doing fucking anything. And basically he's kind of grifting me now.
He's in the Louis Theroux documentary. He's another big player in the Louis Theroux documentary.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's another one kissing the monkey with the bloody tongue in its mouth, like
he was just featured sporadically, wasn't he? The monkey, and you thought like, he's just giving context, and then suddenly you're like, he's one of Jeff's fucking right hand man.
Is he the one in the Louis Theroux documentary where Louis goes to that house and then he's like too scared to go outside because that
he brings the cat
fucking mental. The monkey's in the garden going fucking mental.
Yeah, he goes to
throwing like the patio furniture at the windows and like they go, no, it's fine. Do you want to come out? And he's like, no.
Yeah, no. He goes to the one with the monkey, and she brings it out, and he goes, "Can I go inside?" And the monkey runs up and smashes the fucking windows on the.
Yeah. And he just goes mental.
But the guy. But that's a woman. He is in that, but he's one. He brings out the fucking 800-pound fucking tiger, the white tiger, or whatever it is. Not 800-pound, but and he sits next to Louis Theroux. And Louis just stands up and he's doing that thing of no, he's fine, he doesn't hurt anybody. And he says like how much does he weigh? And he goes like 300-400 or whatever. And he goes, right, so technically he's got you on the leash. And the guy's sort of like holding this little leash, this fucking cat that's sat and higher than him. But yeah, I wanted to get to actually the Louis Theroux documentary. But to stick to this, so I don't know if this is going to be like this is not outside the murder story and all that. Eventually, we're going to get around to the story of zoos because they all seem to sort of eventually collapse. And all these blokes that got brought in one after the other. Who was a sort of guru fucking zoo fella that was in it with a ponytail who had all these wives?
Doc Antle,
yeah. They all seem to be a bit iffy by the end of it. They all felt a little bit dirty by the end of it.
Yeah, because Doc, he sort of went, okay, so this guy's just thought, well, how can I parlay this? I want to make a sex cult. How can I do that? I'll have tigers, Yeah. And so this is not an admirable man, but you go, okay, he's got his cards on the table.
Which one of them said, because he's talking about having little cats to show the girls, and he said a small pussy gets a big pussy.
That was Jeff, actually.
Oh, it was Jeff Lowe. Yeah. When he was sneaking the tiger cubs into his
into Las Vegas
suites, to impress women. Yeah.
Oh, God.
But, this is, talking about selling Joe's T-shirts and everything, we're all going, oh, how bad these people are. But is this any different? It's Gwyneth Paltrow selling her vagina candle. She's not the idiot.
She's low level. That's it.
Yeah, but it's the people buying the candle. That candle sold out. So it's not.
Is that a real thing then?
Yeah, it's not that it literally. Basically, they didn't rub it on her vagina to give it a scent.
But legally, to say you got to do something to legally call it. Or do you not?
Because you just call it my vagina candle. It's not. It's not a food. It's not a
vagina.
Basically, she said. Apparently, they came up with a random fragrance, and she smelled it and went, "Oh, this smells like my vagina." And so that's.
And the marketing guy said, "Excuse me."
Well, it started. I think it started as a joke. Oh,
fishy.
Yeah, exactly.
Imagine if you got it and went, "Jesus Christ!"
There was a meme.
I told you.
There was a meme saying that if you can't afford Gwyneth Paltrow's candle, this is what you do, and it was just an open tin of tuna with a candle.
Oh, right, let's get off of this. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, this is a free podcast. You're you have not been charged for this content.
People buying Joe's T-shirts, sweaty old T-shirts. Who knows? Who dreads to think those will never be clean? Those T-shirts.
Yeah, I'd say I was just jumping around entrepreneur, but when you said he conned the fucking domestic, that takes you to a level of you're a horrible fucking shitty.
That's like the people who rob, the poppy appeal tins.
Like it was like a battered women's charity and stuff, and it's just like fucking hell. Man. Yeah. That's some real scumbag.
So I wonder if this is going to cause some discussion over just the validity of zoos all at the end of the day with everything.
Because you think that with Blackfish, that led to a massive negative thing about things like SeaWorld and all those sort of things with killer whales. The people who made the executive producer behind this film is, as I mentioned, the director and producer is Eric Good, who is a conservationist, but the executive producer is Fisher Stevens, who
of
this documentary.
Netflix.
Yeah, well, no, he's not the executive producer of Net. He's just an executive. He's probably just attached
of the show.
Yeah, probably just attached his name to it to say, look, this is a legit. You quite often bring on an executive producer to say,
just to push it through financially.
Well, to give it the bona fides, because this was Eric Good's first documentary outside of being a nature film. But Fisher Stevens had worked on things like The Cove, which was about of dolphins. So he's got
terrible.
But it is odd that, as you say, it just becomes about the people. All anyone is talking about, who wasn't, aside from if you're with Peter or Petter or whatever it is, or if you're with the WWF, you'd be talking about this anyway. But the fact is, all that anyone's taking away from this documentary is fucking Carole did it, and we're doing it right now. We're saying like, oh, isn't Jeff a scumbag, and isn't Doc a bit creepy, and and isn't Saf really kind of level-headed out of all of them, and isn't the guy with no legs, he's kind of chill.
Yeah.
Rick was funny with his hat. No one's saying, oh, God, what's happening to these animals now?
Yeah. I think it will. I think it will, when the thing dies down, I think it's brought up something that will be a second wave of this is really disgusting what's been going on. Because they all, like I said, they all seemed a bit filthy but by the end of it. It all just seemed a bit mucky with the animals. Nobody seemed to be really looking after them. It all seemed about he said, but he bought them from there, but he says he's all right, but they don't.
I would like to think that if they've been in England, this all been set in England, most of those people would already be in prison.
Yeah, but we can't keep big cats, can we? There's that law. That to them, that's like the firearms law. Do you know what I mean? I can keep big cats.
Because they're like, this is government, this is tyranny, and government. I should be able to breed cats and murder, suffocate them slowly if I choose to. And it's just I don't think you should actually.
We're going to the point of ethics. I did want to say, because I went back and watched the Louis Theroux documentary when he's talking about people that own big zoos, and Joe Exotic was part of that. And there was, again, I'd seen it about 5 years ago, and I thought, that's a bit shitty, like the animals there. And then I just watched it. Remember I've said before, when you watch a film, you can watch a film every 5 years and you'll see something new, because you've learned more about the world, you get the references a bit more, you understand the nuances of the story a bit more. So when I've watched this, and it showed the bit again, which I could remember, where a woman had a load of chimpanzees. There was 2 women that had chimpanzees. One of them had one had a few. And she opens a door, which looks like a big shed. And there's about 12 chimpanzees in there. They're all spitting at Louis Theroux. They're all throwing stuff. They're rattling the fucking cages, banging around. And she says, come on, we've got to get out of it. And he's saying to her, like, do you think they care about you? And she went, they love me. Like, I know they love me. And I just thought, this is like a mental health problem, this keeping animals thing. It really is a mental health problem. And there was a bit where, so in the Louis Theroux documentary, where he goes to women that take their monkeys to like an outdoor fete or something like that, and they're bringing their little pets. Everyone's got little pets. One of them is a kangaroo in a pushchair. I should just let you know, that's the mentality, but a kangaroo in a baby's pushchair. And he's saying to the women, that's nice. How long do they hard to look after you? She loves me. One's got earrings in, one's got a dress on, little monkey.
It's got earrings. It was in actual pierced ears.
Had pierced earrings on each one. He says to the other woman, would you have yours?
Just get a cat, man. Just get like a little dog or a little cat.
Don't get the ear pierced on the cat either. But
but I'm saying that get something, because they obviously need a baby. Yeah. Like, this is all baby substitutes. Just get a baby or get a little cat or something, and the little cat
get Carole's husband,
and like it'll be fine. Just don't bother with all this shit, man.
But the second he scratches at all below the surface by saying, do you think they're happy or do you think this? They immediately go, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. And you think, you can't even it's pure delusional. Like, just the second honest to God, they remind me of Trump supporters, where the second a normal person...
A lot of them are, yeah.
Yeah, the second you ask a normal question, they panic, they're not used to it, and they can't lie because you're pulling them out of their delusion. And... So the one, he was talking in the documentary about the woman that had the pet. I can't remember the name, but it ripped off the woman's face. She took it out in public. Chimpanzee, yeah. And it attacked her, ripped her face off, ripped the fucking hands off. And it turned out she was giving it wine, and it was on antidepressants. And you go, but when he's talking to the women, and he's saying, and the one woman said, they love me. I know they love me. These chimpanzees, full-grown chimpanzees, in cages. I'm not kidding. You're talking like 6 foot by 5 foot, rat banging the cages inside this little shed. And I thought, this is mental health. Like, this isn't about, I love pet. This is a mental health problem. This is a sick person that thinks these things that are smashing the cages to pieces and spitting love her. And I was just thinking the whole thing about zoos, and we know they're going to go. It's just, when do we grow up and attend to the fact that I always remember, and I hope people don't think I'm being funny when I say this, but it's just, I always think back to a photograph I saw when they took black people from tribes at the Amazon and put them in cages.
The human zoos.
And wheeled them through. And they were saying the same things. Well, they can't think. They're not civilized. They're animals.
Didn't they? They had one in Belgium, didn't they? Up till like, was it at some point in the last century, I think?
Didn't we? The
up till about 1910 or something they had.
Where
we spoke cages.
We spoke about Sarah Bartman, the Satyajee, the girl that was lauded around the UK, that was raped and things like that, who Beyonce wanted to play in
I think this might be PC, pre-Charles.
Oh, really? Okay.
Or BC, before Charles.
You might confuse things if you say it. But so this woman was pulled into she was taken from the her name might have been Belgian. Oh, she might have been taken to Belgium first, where she got her name. But she was from a tribe. Yeah. What was the name of the tribe? The Guji. It was like
the Belgians. The Belgians had their Belgian Congo, and they did a lot of awful things. They were very, very oppressive and very nasty.
They took her around because she had a big bum that was unusually big, and they took her around the UK and showed her around. But the movie was going to be made, and Beyonce said she wanted to play her, and then the Koi Koi. tribe.
That was it, yeah.
The guy,
I think
the guy come out and said, "You're having a fucking laugh."
But there was quite a big backlash about that.
Yeah.
Not just because of what he'd said. It was a general kind of.
But it was ridiculous. But so anyway, but they thought, well, you're from a tribe, you live in there, you dress naked, you're an animal, and it's like, oh, maybe we've come around to the fact of animals do have feelings so fucking slowly, like they feel emotions and stress and all things like that, and now we sort of know. But still, they've got that sect in these Americans of, well, big cats, I should be allowed to cage them and put an animal that needs 200 miles of territory and put it in a sort of 10-foot box. And watching that Louis Theroux documentary, I thought, fucking hell, this is horrendous. This isn't like bad anymore. This is fucking horrendous. This woman is caging stressed fucking animals. That he said, I think it was in Louis Theroux, he said, don't get near the cage. He said, because they'll pretend that they're playing with you until you put your hand in, and then they'll flip out. There was the guy in, it might have been Tennessee. It was a trainer, somebody who's looking after the zoo, who got killed. And what he'd done is he went up to the cage, and he said they were playing games with him. And when he got near, they grabbed him from under the cage and pulled him in and killed him. He said, and yes, in this documentary, the guy said to Luther, he said they'll pretend like they're playing with you because they're sapient enough to know that you are caging them. They're not an animal that's just going on instinct. They know they're being they're held, and you're holding them. They're that smart. He said, so they will play games and jump around and do tricks until you get near them, and then they'll grab you and try and pull you in.
Yeah. Well, it's like those women who have like sort of chimpanzees or any of these things, really. They'll be okay. They can be okay for a very long time. And sometimes they'll get these chimpanzees or these monkeys and they'll live in a house for like 10 years and they'll be fine and chilled. And then one day they'll just go like lose it and just go fucking mental and just like smash the place up and attack them, you know?
Well, when you see them sat next to the tigers and all that, and he's going, oh, it's okay, it's fine. And you go, you are literally delusional. Like, you think you've created a bond and it knows. And to a degree, you might know each other's personality a little bit, but there's no love. You're still, all you have to do is smell wrong.
The thing on his boots, the alleged, tampering with his boots.
Oh, and Joe's boots when he pulls him.
Yeah, but you're just like, oh, this was the animal that you loved, that you had this bond with. Yeah. But it just wants to eat you now that you're.
Yeah, because it's delusion. It's pure fucking delusion. Like, they're not right for these animals. That's, it's just, I think we need to snap out of it. I always think about people in the future looking back and going, oh, that generation, that modern 2020. They were just stupid people that thought animals were like them. They thought they had these relationships. There's a book by a guy. Sorry, he said it was writing about dogs, and he said, you think you've got your dogs to sort of like do what you want and be your pet. He said the dog's actually training you to give it food. You know what I mean? It knows what to do to wag its tail, so you will give it food. So you're being trained, not the other way around.
But I was just going to say quickly, I think they have a very different view on animal rights and the care of animals. Very different in America than we probably do.
Yeah, well, it's the ownership. It's the same arguments about guns. It's the me, my rules. You can't tell me what to do. I think it comes under that category loosely. And when you watch the documentaries and you listen to them talk about these, like I said, a kangaroo you go, that's not even a joke, a kangaroo in a baby's pushchair. And you think, oh, this is what it wants to be. The guy, so the guy that was working with the other fella who got brought in, who was the Harley Davidson guy? What was his name?
Which
Jeff,
the one that got brought in with him to open up the zoo with the bald fella, not the spiritual guy, the other one. Oh God!
What?
The two that were going to start it together, the zoo together.
The two that were going to start the zoo together.
So who's the guy in the leather jacket?
Jeff.
Jeff.
So
there's Jeff Lowe.
And him, the other fellow was going to do
Tim Stark.
Tim, that was it. In the documentary, Louis Theroux documentary, he's in that, and he's saying he said, look, well, surely these animals would want to be like live a life out in the open, and he says no. He said they want to be caged and fed, like that. And I think, but he says that. No, you don't understand. He said, why would an animal want to be out in the wild and it can be killed and all that, or it just want to be fed here? And you go again. This is mental health. Like don't know what
he's like. Well, do you want to live in the wild? He goes, well, do you want to like live in a house and like just have someone
have a
give you food
PlayStation
and TV?
Yeah, and have cable TV and internet. And you're just like,
go,
what?
God's sake, like this is mental health. When are we going to say you're not in control of yourself here? You're not somebody that's capable. We need to go, look, these places, it has to be sort of like politics to fix these things. You have to go, okay, you love animals. you cannot make money from them. Like politics. Okay, you want to be in politics? You cannot benefit financially from it. There needs to be, it's that important. It has to be, okay, you can have a sanctuary. Lovely. Look after the animals and look after them, but you can't make money from them. You can't make money from them, or a profit, I should say. It should be run as a charity.
Yeah, it should be run as a foundation or a charity.
And you can't have them for pets. You can't have chimpanzees. It's like keeping like an ignorant person as a pet. It still has feelings. It's still no, but I'm talking about it might not be able to read books and all that, but it's still a feeling, living entity that you have caged.
It's not funny, but I was just thinking. I think it was the chimp that played Cheetah, or it might have been a bonobo, in the very old black and white Tarzans. Yeah. And it basically just lived in a mansion. It had servants.
That was a big Hollywood star, was it?
Yeah, it had servants. They used to let it drink whiskey and.
All right, well, apart from him,
and it watched TV and all this kind of and just had servants bringing it haute cuisine.
Fair enough.
But just spent right up until the end. I think it was quite late on. Eventually, had to go to a sanctuary because where chimps and the other primates essentially become they start seeming like docile, and then they suddenly because they basically get dementia, and without being it's horrid, but they basically forget their training, they forget their in the same way that people with certain types of dementia may act inappropriately.
They lose their social conditioning or whatever.
Yeah, so it's the same thing. So these chimps basically going, their brains are going, and so they think, this is that, and that's why they start, sexually assaulting carers, or they start, there's chimps. This is, So basically, I think Cheetah basically got too old and became too wild, so they had to put it in a sanctuary. But it's just going around smoking cigars and drinking.
Sort of like do you remember the Typhoon advert? Removal men chimps from the 70s or 80s pushing
PG
the pianos
tips.
PG tips.
Yeah, but those ones were horribly, I don't think those were well cared for at all. I think they had all sorts of things done. I think they might have been drugged. I can't recall to basically
I think they sold the company and went on their own. They sold the removals firm that they worked for.
Yeah, and they spent the rest of their days playing poker.
After the advert, they were a laughing stock. Nobody's taking them seriously.
They play poker.
They eventually just moved up to management and got a bunch of Eastern European people in.
I saw those adverts. I think I remember somebody saying when to get their lips moved, they actually put salt on their lips. They don't want to close their mouth. So what do you reckon about zoos? It is going, isn't it? It's going to go. It's just going to happen as we become more civilized.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on what kind of zoo you're talking about. I think if you go to something like you go to let's call them legitimate zoos. They are
London
Zoo.
Somebody says to me, look, London Zoo is a good zoo. One, because there's not masses of roaming lions in every cage. It is a conservatory zoo. It takes old animals to learn from them and care from them. That's why it's not an amazing zoo to go to, like these outdoor things with like tigers roaming around.
Yeah, the one in Regent's Park, because they have a larger facility out in Whipsnade, but that's for the larger animals.
That's to show off. But he said the London Zoo is where they take the old animals. It is to look after them, care for them, and look for them and train people on them. Something like that. But that's not great. But just these, I'm going to have pets and keep them caged for people to look at. And then, especially when you get to the chimp thing, when you go, we're going to have to snap. One day, we're going to realise how intelligent they are, and they are feeling stuff, which we have only really realised in the last 20 years, really. Yeah. Before then, they were just sort of acting on instinct. They don't know nothing. There's nothing behind the eyes. So we'll have to grow out of these things, of these zoos and private animals. But the problem with the American thing is, because it'll happen in Europe first, which it has, I think, but in America, it's the law thing. It's that me and you can't take my rights sort of thing.
Well, we're seeing it now with coronavirus, people turning up saying, you have to let us go back to work. This is an imposition on
you're telling us what to do.
It's unconstitutional to stop us dying.
but it's the same thing. I mean, they accept that with gun rights. They accept that, yes, you should have a right to own guns, but then that also means that 25,000 to 30,000 people will be murdered a year from them.
Yeah.
And they just accept that as the cost of doing business, really. And it's the same thing with sort of coronavirus, is they see that, we value the concept or idea of freedom or autonomy or whatever so much that we're willing to say, you know what, 500,000 or 1 million people will have to die in order for me to go to the shops. Yeah, or anyone I know.
Do you see the interview online with the Dr. Phil when he's done an interview, like a tweet interview thing? Dr.
Not
Phil
a real
in America.
doctor.
Yeah.
It's important to say.
No, I think
he
he's a
was
doctor.
giving lots of stuff about like germs and like hygiene stuff, and I'm like, dude, what are you, a psychiatrist or something? You know.
But it turned out that, like, a few people that have gone to speak about we should get back to work. It turns out he's got a lot of money in stocks and shares. That's why he's gone to do all these things. It's just one of those celebrities saying, "No, maybe it's not that bad. You know, maybe we should get back to work so my fucking stocks don't fall through the fucking."
Yeah.
So I never liked him. Even when I used to see him on the Oprah Winfrey shows, I just didn't like the way he was. He seemed more like a showman than anything. But anyway, so that's the Tiger King special. I think we've covered everything.
There's one person we haven't talked about.
Who? Hang on, don't say it.
I'll give you an audio clue.
Go on.
Dan, 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 dan.
I know the tune, but I don't know who. No, what?
Think of jet skis.
Oh, okay, yeah.
No,
James Garretson, the guy who was basically the informant, who turned informant.
Oh yeah,
the snitch, the federal snitch. Yeah,
he slimed into the show and slimed his way out again.
He looks like someone who. In The Sopranos, Paulie would beat up in season 2 for a gambling debt, and then end up having to chop his thumbs off with a pair of gardening shears. Like
I was watching a documentary about it was about sort of the inner world of incels. Earlier
Another
today,
exciting night in.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought, well, I live my best quarantine life. And I thought, if James Garretson popped up as turned up behind one of these balaclavas, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah,
he's largely kept out of the limelight. He's just
So what was the story there? So
he's actually sort of probably the closest thing to a legitimate businessman that anyone in this documentary is, despite being sort of seen as the slimy one who turned them all in.
How did he get involved with the documentary? What was his?
Well, because he owned nightclubs, he owned strip clubs, he owned.
He just had money. That was the thing.
He basically had money and became a partner, I think, with Jeff, but then just got squeezed out.
Yeah, he was friends, but he was also another big cat owner.
That's right.
He ran 2 zoos before that, in Dallas and Florida. But there were some law changes there to ownership and how these zoos could be run. So basically, he ended up donating the animals that he had to Joe.
And he used to do the touring thing that Joe did as well. You know, take around animals to go pet.
Yeah.
So he was on the inside with them, and the police wanted to get to Joe, so decided to look into what he was up to, and found a lemur or something.
It's because he was involved with the hit on Carole.
Oh, the hit, that was it, right?
Or the plans made the hit. So he was quite heavily involved, so that's why he turned informant. You know, he wasn't.
But they needed to get him on something, didn't they? And it was through the illegal lemur or something he had. They sent in is it the feds?
I can't remember.
Yeah, I think he had a pet store, didn't he? Something. It might have been a pet store, but yeah, they sent in the feds, and then they went through all this stuff and found out he had a lemur that was illegally imported, and basically got him on that. And
he did own a strip club and several bars, and I always think anyone who owns a strip club is slightly dodgy, just from what I've heard the stories.
On the cusp, not illegal, but on the cusp.
So I think he said that he became a confidential informant because he believed it was a noble thing to do. But I suspect there are some sealed documents somewhere, allegedly, maybe potentially, of him involved in other things.
Yeah, when you watch the interviews, there's a lot of I know what really happened. He knows that I know what really happened, sort of stuff going on. So it's all.
Well, that's why he zoomed off on the jet ski. It was him saying, that, I'm going to get Joe. I'm going to get Jeff. And then there was him, and that was it. But he's kept out of the limelight otherwise.
And who was the guy? I've just remembered now. The guy that was going to do the hit, the sort of nutter of the. He gave the deposit to go and kill her, but he just went to a nightclub and sort of got high.
He just He just bought loads of coke.
Yeah,
just went off for like a week.
And he said, "I had no intention of doing it."
Yeah.
I forgot about him. There's so many characters in it.
That was the first hitman. The second hitman was an undercover FBI agent.
Oh, that was right. Yeah, he brought him in to say, "You go and do the thing." Well, the documentary, the Rick Kirkham, he said he even said to him once, I said, "I've got a lot of money if somebody would just go and get rid of her or go and take care of her." And he was like, "This fucking guy's off his fucking head." But
it's so strange because so many of his videos, as you were saying, I think right at the beginning, were about, I'm going to kill her. Oh, this is her. I'm going to shoot her. And you're like, how is this not a criminal
illegal?
offense?
Yeah. I mean, we're all pulling a gun out and going, "Here's the Carole, here, Carole, bang!" And you go, "Fucking hell, that's like..."
And threatening violence on federal agents, on the government.
Yeah, I'll kill you. Yeah. Well, he says in the Louis Theroux documentary, he said, if they ever tried to take my zoo from them, I'll kill all the animals. I'll euthanize. And Louis goes, you got 1,400 animals. He said, I'll euthanize every one of them, then I'll do myself in. You go,
there'd be another Waco.
Warning. But he was tied in with the police. I think somebody worked on the police force was his actual limo driver. He said because the police didn't want to come onto his compound, but they came in every sort of 5 or 6 months, didn't they say, just to check. But he basically had an in with this copper who was his driver.
Sounds about right, yeah.
So that they kept away, said that he was king on that place, like nobody could do anything to him. And the thing that caught me off, and it's a bit out of the story, is the last guy that comes in that marries him, the tall guy, who is talking to another guy, and then he just blows his brains out. And they show the footage of the guys talking to him.
Oh, that's fucked up.
Travis.
Yeah, that's fucking
And you
crazy.
just go, it's just a fucking guy that's junkie.
Travis. That's Travis Molinado.
Oh, because he said
Maldonado, isn't it?
Molinado, yeah.
When Rick said he thrived on people like that who had nothing, he'd come in and he'd give them a car, give them a 4x4, give them a load of drugs and guns, and just feed whatever's the hole in them. He just feeds that hole even more. And he said, but when you're watching the documentary, you go, oh, this guy, and he was a bit crazy and weed and all that. And then he just pulls a gun out and blows his fucking brains out.
Well, because the story as told is that the gun was loaded, but he was saying because I've forgotten the name of the chap, but the guy who is his campaign manager.
Joshua Dial.
Oh,
he that he'd said, but there's still one in the chamber. And he said, but guns can't fire without the magazine in.
He said this specific model can't fire if it doesn't.
Oh, right.
I would not test that theory against my own head.
Not on my own head. Maybe against the wall or the floor or something. You know what I mean?
But even when he shoots guns at people's feet, and you go, he's a fucking nutter. Like,
they're all laughing. They're like, that's great, Joe.
I would go fucking. You don't point guns at people. That's even I know that, and I'm not gonna.
With Rick Kirkman, he said in one of the interviews, he said he shot near me 3 times just to sort of be funny. You go, Jesus Christ, that's a bullet. Things ricochet. You fucking idiot. So anything else you want to say? Zoos, Joe Tiger, Joe Exotic, Joe Exotic.
Joe Exotic.
Yeah, just the voice. The guy went. The interviews, he said, why did anybody think that voice was singing those songs?
yeah. It's like, come on. Yeah, it's quite
smooth.
Sort of, country, and it's a kind of standard kind of, and we do this for love country. It's kind of just your standard talking. Country and western, and it's just like, and then you hear him talk, and it's like, no.
R2D2 starts speaking. So that covers everything. No need to watch the documentary now. I think we've covered every angle.
We've ruined it for everyone, No, I think everyone in the whole world must.
Well, somebody said, he said, this is the most watched documentary in history now. What would be the second?
Triumph of the Will.
What's that?
No.
When We Were Kings, the Muhammad Ali thing? It would be probably more to do with fighting.
What's a very good... Documentaries aren't very watched, are they? They're not very. They can be successful and they can be good, but they're not often. They don't often have breakout appeal.
That might be.
Yeah, probably one of Thingy's ones. Yeah.
Yeah, Bowling for Columbine.
Maybe. Because they had cinema releases. They actually had mainstream cinema releases, didn't they?
Yes, I would imagine this probably is the most watched documentary in history.
Maybe, I think so.
It's like so he's got his fame, but it's just now he's caged. So he's like, what's the choice?
That was something I meant to say. I think because he.
Are you going to mention Trump, aren't you?
No. He's married to one of his. No, Joe Exotic's going to call all the media together and do a video presentation about how he was right all along, just like Trump did about coronavirus. No, he was. I think it's his. I can't remember who it is now, but apparently Joe is well aware of his fame. Oh. He's remorseful about his treatment of the animals, although because he's spoken with the directors of Tiger King, but they said they're not convinced he is actually all that remorseful about his treatment of animals. But he still denies that he tried to take out the hit on Carole, that it was a genuine thing. It was.
I think he's remorseful that he got caught. You know what I mean?
But he is reveling in his fame. He's trying to do a radio. He wants to do a radio show from prison, which I'm not entirely sure how that works, frankly.
Well, prison radio.
Not too different than this.
Oh, Kerem's popped up. Sorry, what did you say, Kerem?
Not too different than this.
We're all in lockdown.
Yeah, very good. Nice little dig there.
But I don't know.
But they do have prison radio. But I'm assuming you can't broadcast.
This apparently a local radio station, and they want him to sort of co-host a weekly show or something, or a regular show.
But then you've got that law. You've got that law about not profiting off your crimes, haven't you? In America, you're not allowed to profit directly.
Well, most countries have that rule.
You can do stuff. You're right. They do have. You can write books, though, can't you? From prison, you can do interviews and stuff. I mean, fucking Charlie Manson did interviews, didn't he, and stuff. So, and lots of serial killers have and stuff. So they can do that. I think you have to get dispensation or whatever. You have to get approval from the government.
There was a guy on YouTube who's very popular. He's talking about time in jail, and he says in one of the interviews, I have to keep saying, part of the rules of being on YouTube, I'm not promoting this. This is a bad thing. Do not follow my footsteps. So I suppose if you're just not showing off about it, you have to do those things about, look, it's not good what I've done. But if you're in prison at the fucking time...
But he won't be able to help himself. He'll get half an episode in and then start saying
fucking
about
Carole,
Carole this, Carole that, and how he wishes she was dead. And then, he'll...
But I'm telling you, the sort of psychosis that he's got... It wouldn't surprise me if he'd be happier inside with the fame than outside without it. Do you know what I mean? He's got that sort of mentality of like, if I'm well known inside, I'll take that over not being known outside. Yeah. So anything else? I think we covered everything. Anything else you want to mention?
Do we think there'll be more? Do we think there'll be more Tiger King? Will there be a...
There will, just purely on money. Even if there's no story there, they'll find something. It can't not.
Yeah, because the filmmakers have said that. Yeah, the filmmakers have said they've got more footage.
If you look into the story of Joe himself, I did have some notes. So he was abused. He was like repeatedly raped when he was like 5 by like an older boy. You can read the stories about that online. That's not me, Joe.
Is that this is obviously I know what you're going to say, but is that verified?
Yeah, I mean, he goes. There was stories about, like, he was even talking about how it happened and what the guy used to do. He used to prop the fucking desk up against the bedroom door so the guy couldn't get in and all that.
Okay.
But that's just loosely going over it. His mum has died, but he was saying that the other guy killed her, the guy in the leather jacket and the bandana. He's saying he's responsible for his mum dying, who died recently. So he's blaming her. His mum. But what they're saying now, the story is Joe and his family, his background is a story in of itself, like how he got to there and all the fucking family members. His dad died in jail. His dad was in jail and died for something, took his own life for something. But they're basically saying that would be the next thing, how he got to that point, like everything before him and all the characters.
Because there was that very quite sad again. I mean, you have to take everything.
Can you think his dad? To see where his dad died. It was something about it being in jail.
Yeah, there was that he said, I think it might have been the first episode, or maybe it was quite early on in the whole thing, where he said that he came out to his father and his father made him swear in front of his mother he wouldn't come to his funeral.
Yeah,
that's very sad. I remember that bit.
Yeah. That's not very
why because he didn't he was gay.
He was ashamed of him being gay.
Right,
yeah, so they didn't want him at his own funeral.
Oh yeah, but I think his dad died when he was 6, I think, but he was definitely in jail. I think he took his life.
It's difficult to know what the fuck is real and what's not. You know what I mean? And like everyone has their own agenda. This is what I said. Everyone has their own agenda. Everyone's kind of trying to cover up their own kind of crimes and misdemeanors.
Plus, a lot of the main characters are sort of con men or murdered somebody, so they're all.
Everyone's
liars.
guilty of something. They were trying to cover up their bits and implicate everyone else and make themselves seem cool. And a lot of people have seemed to be fuck-ups, drug addicts and compulsive liars.
So the whole thing's just a
and
mess.
Nutcases. So, like, it's a bit of a mess. Like, you don't know who to
believe. When you say
believe.
it like that, you go, this is just a fucking zoo of human beings. The animals are the only normal fucking things in it.
Yeah, because I was thinking that. I was thinking structurally as a show, because this is more entertainment than factual.
Yeah.
I was like, this is more of it's more almost, you've got to view it as like a fictional show. It's like a soap opera or fictional show rather than an in-depth, detailed documentary. Because they don't do any investigation, they don't do any fact checking. They don't
just
do
said, she said. Yeah.
They just report. It's all tittle tattle and gossip, and that's the way it's presented. And where the hell am I going with this?
No, don't worry. Kerem, did you find anything out about the suit? Oh, no. I'm not having this. I'm going to a second opinion, Kerem. Hang on.
So glad you were.
Hang on. Dad.
Oh yeah, what was I going to say? Yeah. When I was watching it, I was just like, who am I supposed to be sympathetic? Who's the hero, and where's my sympathy supposed to be lying? Yeah, who am I supposed to really sympathize with? Some of the people like Saf and the dude with no legs. You're like, and the guy with the long hair, was it Chris or Eric? Eric, the guy with long, the guy with long hair. Who ended up murdering lots of the animals. You're like, they seem kind of cool and kind of chill, and they seem like victims basically of this weird guy. But it's difficult, to know what's the takeaway from this, you know?
Yeah, I think because they're secondary characters, as it were, that they're not, they're in and out of their background.
Yeah,
there's no animal conservationist who was really trying to save the animals. There's no, because you kind of think, oh well, Carol's the one that you go, oh, she's just as bad as the other ones, and she killed her husband, allegedly.
Maybe, yeah. So it's difficult to sort of, there's no sort of standout hero really, and it's an odd show because of that, and it just gets it obfuscates it with weirdness because they're like. I mean, don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed it, but then it sort of throws these weird characters at you, and a lot of them you could edit out, like the drug dealer guy. Yeah?
I can't remember the drug dealer.
Who's the drug dealer guy?
Mario Tabroa, he was the former Miami cocaine trafficker.
Oh, the Scarface guy.
Yeah, Scarface guy.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, he didn't really do anything for the plot. I'm saying just as a narrative, he didn't really do anything for the plot. Like Doc Fuckface, again, like he's an interesting character, and it's really interesting to have him in, but he doesn't really do anything. You know what I mean? As a character, I was saying, if I was editing the show, I would edit them out, and I would focus more on other things.
I'd probably keep. I know what you mean about the Scarface guy. I would probably keep Doc Antle in it because you just go, here's another.
Fascinating,
yeah, but and also because I mean it's fascinating just because you're like, what's his beard going to be like this week? Is he clean shaven? Is it goatee? Is it the little? I don't know what it's called when it's just the little tuft under your lip.
How many episodes were there? Was it 7 or 8?
Seven proper, and then 8 for the sort of Q&A follow up.
Yeah, it's the bonus one. Yeah.
But there's definitely going to be more to come. I think, like I said, it's going to go into Joe's background. I couldn't find anything about his dad, so I'm going to just go with Kerem.
Because I'm sure Jeff would. Although Jeff was kind of coy about doing it again, I think he would. Doc has said no, he wouldn't.
Carole?
He thinks, Carole, of course she won't do one.
Unless she's got a defence.
I'm surprised,
Carole.
Genuinely. I mean, obviously, this is just a thing of their psychosis and their sort of ego or whatever. But all these people are guilty of multiple crimes. Yeah. And I'm just, why would you let a documentary crew anywhere near you when you are just obviously involved in vaguely criminal enterprises?
I wonder if it's you have to meet them halfway. Somebody has to be ready for a documentary crew to come in, and all you do is you prey on their insecurities. So if somebody's egotistical and wants to be seen as this thing, you need them to be like that before they'll buy your bullshit. If it's just a normal person and they're happy, they're not going to invite it in. Yeah. It's why, like Louis Theroux, I think he said once actually. He said, how do you get people to be interviewed? He said, they have to want me to be there. He said, I'm like a vampire. They have to want me to be there before I can come in. If you're just a normal happy person,
or whatever.
Yeah, if you're a normal person, you go, no, what's the benefit of having you follow me around all the fucking time?
Well, it was interesting. Sorry. It was interesting, Doc, the amount of time, they even referenced it. They said it feels like he's a better director than we are. Because even though they included it in the documentary, again, showing that he had less control than he thought. He said, I'll get out now. I'll go into the house and let you in rather than have us, because when he was showing them around the there were loads of times where he said, oh, maybe it'd be better if we filmed it this way, that way. I mean, Carole even did that, I think, in her intro. She said, oh, is it better if I kneel down?
Right, yeah.
When she was, so some of these people are very media savvy aware, aren't they? Just saying. Yeah.
So I think you play on their ego. Look, we're coming in. Yeah. We tell them, it's a story about love and this and that and marriage and this, and you can get to tell your story finally. And then they just go, there is a thing called editing where we're going to twist all this up. And then how many people have done documentaries and gone, you motherfucker.
And unless you have creative control, unless you have a final say on the cut, like for how they're going to present it, you're always going to look bad.
Yeah, nobody's designed. There's no you're not designed to look good. It's friction and lies and twists. That's what. So you never, even if you are pure, something's going to be twisted somewhere.
Yeah. They're going to find something. They're going to edit you in a way that maybe you won't like or won't be.
Ignorance.
Well, quite heavy criticism was labelled against. There was a Rolling Stones documentary, Crossfire Hurricane. It's quite old now. It's probably within the last 10 years, and there was all this criticism saying, "Oh, it's just a Rolling Stones propaganda piece. They're creative control." And you're like, "Well, you're not going to get them to sit down otherwise."
Yeah.
You're not going to get the fucking Rolling Stones to sit down because they're very litigious,
But then you have the thing like the biopic of oh god, who's the gay fella, the Rocket Man.
Oh, Elton John.
Yeah, where he's like one of the executive producers, and you go, see, that's how you get that film. You get a film that's sort of like, oh, poor me, but then it's not really a bad thing about you. It doesn't really show you in a bad light too much.
I haven't seen it, so I don't know. Is it quite haggy?
It's a film about an egotistical pop star that has an egotistical pop star as the executive producer. You're not going to get anything. You're just going to get what you want to be seen. So there you go. So that's why they say unauthorized autobiography is always more interesting than a biography, because you're just going to get what nobody's going to genuinely want you to see there. Go and speak to that person that hates me, and go and speak to that person that I cheated on once. Go and speak to that person I fucked over. But anyway, so it was a good. But did it start? Did the documentary come in after the coronavirus thing? I'm thinking, is it popular because we've all been stuck inside?
I think that's
right
been part of it. Yeah.
I think it would still break you, because you think of things like Making a Murder and Stranger. It's not like Netflix is not a cult thing anymore. So I think it probably because
it's just there. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it was quite heavily promoted as well, wasn't it? On the, I'd heard of it even before this.
I saw the trailers. I saw the trailers on YouTube. I think
the coronavirus definitely helped. That's when people had 7 hours to sit down and watch.
Yeah, certainly that's probably what's boosted this massive. It probably would have got to these crazy numbers through word of mouth, but it's got through them in a great big chunk, almost like a theatrical release. Suddenly has its opening weekend and makes all this money. Obviously, it's not quite the same, but you've suddenly got 48 hours where everyone can watch the whole thing.
Yeah, it was one of those things, I suppose, because everyone watched it at the same time as well. Because that's the trouble with streaming services, is it's everyone's spaced out. Have you seen this? Have you seen this? And everyone's like, oh, watch the first 2 episodes. Oh, I've seen episode 7. It comes out at different times. That was one of the successes of The Mandalorian when it was released in America, because it was weekly. Everyone was sort of watching it every week, and then it created a bit of a buzz about it.
What's The Mandalorian?
That's the Star Wars show. The TV show. Yeah.
Why is it called a Mandalorian?
Because it's about a Mandalorian.
Bounty hunting is a complicated profession.
Is it a type of people, or is it a ship?
It's a creed rather than a race. They are sort of group of noble warrior bounty hunter dudes.
I just love. It's a shame people, if they're not watching this, it's just trying to absorb that.
Oh, the creed, right? Yeah, that threw me off. I thought, hang on, shall I ask a question here? Shall I let it go? Creed and race.
Yes, so they're not a species of people. They are like a sort of almost religious sort of group, sect, or belief, a code of honor. Let's say.
Okay,
they adhere to.
And how old is
samurai, like the samurai.
Oh, okay, right. I see. How old is it?
It's released in America a couple of months ago, and it's being released in Europe now. We're on episode 6 in Europe now. So.
I'm going back into the murky waters tonight. It's my night off, so I'm going back into the murky waters of Star Trek TOS. I'm going to bug another one of those on, see what lunacy I'm watching.
Nice, good stuff.
I just want my eyes to see some colour and some weird shit.
Yeah, but now you're just going to be, every time they're like, I don't understand what's causing all these subspace disturbances, you're going to be like, it's fucking Carole Baskin.
Everything's her bitch's fault.
It seems like there's a cloaked ship nearby, but who could it be? The Romulans or the Klingons? Fucking Carole Baskin.
That bitch has got a fucking helicopter. She's got a drone on us, man.
Just like when we started the podcast, when we started with the bit about this call is from the whatever Pennsylvania. This is Joe Exotic.
Yeah. This is a call from the Oklahoma County lockup from
Joe Exotic.
But he sounds like he's the robo voice, like when you like you've got some text input.
Yeah.
What do you say?
He sounds more like text to speech. Yeah.
Do you say, look, Trump, go on, mate, just let him out, bollocks to it, or do you go, no, criminal? did wrong. I say let him out. Let's give him something to look at.
I'm surprised Trump hasn't weighed in on it because I know there's obviously coronavirus, but he'll talk about whatever he wants anyway. So
I think he will.
He has
carries on.
They asked him a question. It's one of those things. He did make a quote on it because he was asked the question.
But the second when he said to the journalist, "Do you think I should let him out?" Jokingly, I thought, he's looking for people to say, "Yeah, I think you should."
Yeah.
So if enough people say, let him out, 100%. Of course.
Yeah, why not? Yeah. It gives me a little, So I say bollocks, bung him out. Let's have a look at him.
He's going to be saying, Carole Baskin, lock her up.
Yeah, I say get them both, stick them in cages, and bring them around the fucking US in a freak show.
Make him Secretary of State. Fuck it. Like, let him out, pardon him, and give him a government.
Give him whatever
make
he
him
ran
head of the
for.
Corona Task Force. Go on. Fuck
whoever he ran for, the government that he ran for, the government position he ran for, fucking go run for it again. He'll get in.
Yeah, governor. Yeah. He was governor. Oklahoma governor.
Bring a couple of little tigers with you. Yeah, look, tigers, vote for me. Tiger, vote for me. Little tiger, vote for me. So that's it. We've done the chronology and the anthology. What's an anthology?
A collection of things. Stories.
Chronology is a timeline. The anthology, anthos, and
so anthology is usually where they are standalone stories connected by a thread, by a similar theme or thread.
Well, I think we've covered the history of the Tiger King there. Or there might be you never know. We might only be halfway through the story. It might be more to come. We've jumped on this podcast too early.
If they reopen the investigation and find something with Carole, then that will be.
You'll hear about it on the podcast. Don't worry. We will mention it on the podcast.
We will keep you informed.
We'll break the story.
Breaking news every weekend. Yeah. So there you go. So that was our little dig and a little jumping on the bandwagon and squeezing a bit more milk out of the teat of Tiger King.
The teat of Carole Baskin.
Sort of wring the most out of that algorithm, yeah?
Yeah, exactly.
So there you go. So that's it. If you haven't watched it, we've just fucked it. You probably won't want to watch it after everything we've been talking about.
It's still worth watching. Don't get me wrong, because it's so bizarre. Like it
is odd. It's so odd.
If you wrote it as like they're talking about making a film adaptation or a TV or a fictional adaptation of it, it's just like what's the point? But also it's one of those things that if that was a film, it would be so unbelievable and it would be so you'd be like, that's fucking stupid. That would never happen.
Who would play Joe Exotic? Who's the bloke I hate? He's always in. He's in Interstellar.
There's no way we can narrow that down here.
He's in Interstellar. He's always got that southern drawl.
Matthew McConaughey.
I think that might be, him.
So he'd be like, I saw a tiger. All right. He's been
Christian Bale.
They've talked about Billy Bob Thornton to play Rick Kirkham.
Yeah, that was a good call.
Who's Billy Bob Thornton? What does she do?
Billy Bob. Billy Bob Thornton.
Yeah, he's a dude.
Yeah, he's an actor.
Sling Blade. Do you ever see Sling Blade? Sling Blade, he sounds like fucking Joe Exotic, to be fair.
Some people call it the Sling Blade. I call it the Kaiser Blade.
I'd have. Do you remember Saw movies?
No, I didn't watch any.
Yeah. Okay, if you remember who played Jigsaw, Tobin Bell, I'd have him playing Jeff Lowe.
Okay, yeah. Good call, yeah.
Hello, Carole. Would you like to play a game?
Right, so that's the show. There you go. You've had your bit. You can get back to your life now. We've done your.
You get back to sitting indoors.
Yeah, we'll be back next weekend with more hilarity. Actually, a bit more of a serious topic next week.
Hilarity, not guaranteed. What's next week?
Well, none of your business. I'll tell you when we get off air.
What do you mean? It's literally my business.
Well, not literally your business. You're not being.
No, not being.
Well, literally my charity. Right, so we'll get back to you next week. But that was the show. Thank you to Kerem for
Cheers, everyone. Thank you.
See you next week.
Stay safe.
Stay safe.
Bye.
Peace.